everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Conversations with Iyobosa. I remain your host, Iyobosa. So happy to be here. It is raining over here, so wherever you are, I hope you're keeping warm and dry. Well, it is quite warm now. So today's episode is going to be the guest that we have. I am super excited, and you wait until you meet her. The giveaway is a she. She is a bona fide Africa aficionado. When it comes to the homeland Africa, especially in the area of agriculture and nutrition, entrepreneurship, leadership, social innovation, helping to shine the positive light on the continent, Miss Ndidi Nwuneli readily comes to mind as an expert. And she didn't just start yesterday. Through her work in both public and private sectors, she has executed high-impact initiatives, especially concerning Africa. Anyone who has heard her speak, whether at local or international conferences or at her TED Talk, will immediately be drawn to her charm, her intelligence, her down-to-earth persona, and most importantly, her passion and patriotism for Africa. Her goal is to turn West Africa's food to its new gold by engaging the agricultural landscape and building its ecosystem. We'll get to know her intimately today. Welcome, Miss Nwuneli, to Conversations with Iyobosa. Really glad to have you here. Thank you for taking the time out.
It's my pleasure. Great to be here.
Okay, so I am Benin from Edo State, but however, I am married to an Igbo man, and I'm kind of learning Igbo. Sometimes I do it more consciously, other times I just hear, I pick it up. So I'm going to do this again. Uno, Miss Nwuneli, kedu?
I'm really proud of you and impressed that you're embracing the Igbo language. It's such a great language, and we love our wives. In Igbo land, we call you our wife. So welcome, and it's a pleasure to connect with you.
Thank you so much. I am super excited. Don't get me started on the Igbos, just the way, and I'm going to be selfish here, just the way I think they praise the women, so like the husbands, what do you call it? The praises, right? I think that's what you call it. The praises, it will make anybody's head swell. So I am here for it.
Well, you must be a good wife if everyone is praising you. So keep it up. Keep up the good work. Not everyone gets praise. So you're special.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Dalu Rene. Okay, that was fab. I have one question from a mutual friend, Mr. Okeyoku. And he already told me, Iyobosa, anyway, wait for the answer, and then you will see whether to probe more. Where do you get the energy and time for all that you do? So viewers, let me break it down for you. And even you, Ms. Nwuneli, let me break it down to you in case you've forgotten, because to you now, maybe it's second nature. You founded and you run two thriving for-profit businesses in Nigeria that serve as catalysts in the agricultural space. You also founded and you run two not-for-profit organizations that help empower Nigerian youths. You're a wife, you're a mother, you partner with world-class international organizations and are often found giving speeches at international conferences. You founded a digital knowledge, financing, and data hub, which is enabling agricultural entrepreneurs in 34 African countries to scale. You sit on the board of several companies and foundations. You're an author with several publications to your name. You have received several honors and awards and recognition for the work that you do. And get this, viewers, she is not even 50 yet. Are you the tensioning, right? So Miss Seth, I will join them in asking the question, where do you get the energy and the drive from?
Thank you so much, Iyobosa. But I really have to answer this question with all humility, that it's the grace of God. And I know that sounds cliche.
Don't accept it wholly.
But let me add to it that when I say the grace of God, that's a very loaded statement, because number one, it's God's grace that gives you the vision to start initiatives. It's God's grace that gives you the strength to push ahead in spite of all the obstacles. And you know what it's like to work in our context with many obstacles. It's God's grace that allows you to find angels, mentors, supporters, leaders. And many of the organizations I've started, I don't run today. In fact, of all the organizations I've started, I'm only really running one today, and I serve as chair or on the board of the others. And finding good people who share your passion, your vision, board members who are so committed. I call them destiny helpers who God has positioned in my life. I really can't take the credit because I've been truly blessed. So when I say the grace of God, it's a loaded statement. I think also being a mother, being a wife, being a daughter, being a sister is not easy. And in our context, many of us are in the sandwich generation. Iyobosa, I don't know if you understand that concept, but
I do.
We're blessed to have both of our parents still alive in my state. And then I have teenagers. So you can imagine how I'm being challenged by the teenagers and also having to deal with supporting our parents as they age. Yeah. And that's a blessing, right? To have parents who are alive, who are amazing, who are supportive. So there's so many different hats we wear, and every single day it's tough, right? It's really, really tough. But I'm blessed with sisters, emotional, physical, prayer partners, people who hold me up, and a community of support. And I don't take any of it for granted. So it's truly, truly the grace of God. And I have to explain what that means so that it doesn't sound cliche, right? But it truly is the grace of God.
Indeed. You know what? I will accept it. And on behalf of Mr. Oke Okuzo, we accept it. It is truly. I mean, when we talked offline, he says, yeah, Iyobosa, don't just have her just say grace and just move on. I was like, no, I'm sure she will elaborate, and you have done so. And it is, I can't even add anything more to that. It is so apt. It is truly what it is, right? The giver of life. As long as there's life, there's hope, right? Mm-hmm. And the community. So no, thank you so much for that, really. So let's talk about the impacts that you have, your company in the agricultural and nutrition space in Africa. So tell us about, and is it Ace Foods? Am I saying that right? Okay. So tell us about Ace Foods and maybe any other company within this space. Why focus on agriculture and nutrition? Please put it in context for me and my viewers.
So Africa is naturally endowed for agricultural excellence. I mean, we're one continent that has the most arable land that's still available in the world. We have over 60% of our population working in the food and agriculture landscape. And our food is fantastic. It's diverse. And yet we're underperforming in that sector. We still have high rates of malnutrition in many of our countries, with 1 out of every 3 children being stunted. We have 40 to 60% of our fruits and vegetables going to waste, 20 to 30% of our grains and tubers. And the world doesn't know about how amazing our food is or how we have contributed to the global food ecosystem. So there's tremendous ignorance about food in Africa. Mm-hmm. In fact, when people think of Africa from the West, they think of a hungry child.
Right.
When they think of poverty, they think of a female farmer, female subsistence farmer. They don't know that we have contributed the best food in the world. So I have started a number of initiatives, not only to transform the food ecosystem on the continent, but also to change global narratives. So the first company I co-founded with Ndidi Nwuneli, my husband, is Ace Foods. Ace Foods processes spices, snacks, and flours sourced from about 10,000 farmers. We process for the local market and for exports. And when we started, our idea was, we want to prove that proudly Nigerian products can compete globally, that proudly Nigerian products can displace imported products. And we've seen that happen over the course of the last 13 years. It hasn't been easy, but it's really an amazing thing to see and to behold, to walk into shelves of our major grocery stores in Nigeria, where historically they were mostly imported products, and to see our products proudly taking up space and customers buying them.
Yes.
So it's an amazing adventure. We also have started a company called Sahel Consulting, which works across Africa. And Sahel provides policy, consulting support, ecosystem solutions. We actually implement projects, and we train a lot of leaders across the ecosystem. We're working extensively in the dairy sector in Nigeria, ensuring that Nigerians can source milk locally, can produce yogurt. And we're putting nomadic communities into clusters so they supply fresh milk. We're displacing a lot of the madness in the ecosystem, because Nigeria has really been importing dairy from a lot of countries across the world. Wow. When we have the 4th largest cattle herd in Africa. So we're proving that our dairy sector can compete. Mm-hmm. We're doing the same in seed systems, in cassava, in yam, in maize. And not only have we done a lot of strategy work with many of the international organizations and multinationals, but we're also working with local governments, state governments, and at the federal level to improve the ecosystem and to ensure that all our policies support local sourcing, food self-sufficiency, and nutrition. And then the third organization is called Africa Food Change Makers.
Okay.
And that is a one-stop shop for entrepreneurs focused on helping them scale their businesses across Africa so they can nourish Africa and change global narratives. So we provide funding, data, training, and a community. And we're also actively helping our entrepreneurs get on global shelves. This is important for the diaspora. You walk into most grocery shops around the United States and you go to the ethnic cuisine aisle and there's almost no flags from Africa, 54 countries not represented. And you could see 6 provinces from Italy, all represented on your grocery shelves. And so what we've started to do is, number one, provide information to change those narratives. So we're basically saying, you're crazy for coffee, embrace its roots. The average American doesn't know that coffee was born in Ethiopia and 18 countries in Africa produce some of the best coffee in the world. We've produced a podcast to showcase what our entrepreneurs are doing to change that narrative. We've done one on teff, on rooibos, on cocoa. You love chocolates. You're crazy for chocolates. 70% of the world's cocoa comes from just 2 countries, Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana. And we have great chocolate coming from Africa today. And the one I love, given your connection to Igbo land, is okra. And I recently found out okra is an Igbo word that was found in the annals of Virginia in 1600s. And that's why seafood okra is almost identical from seafood okra in New Orleans is almost identical to seafood okra from Eastern Nigeria.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whoa,
So
I didn't know that.
it's an Igbo word. So yeah, the French have croissant. That's what we've contributed to the world. Igbos have contributed the word okra, and it's been adopted globally. So when you research food and food history, you learn that so much came from Africa. And as we think of healthy food and healthy diets, the world can learn so much from the African continent because we have so many plant-based diets on our continent. And we actually have historically eaten very healthy food. A lot of the unhealthy food,
right?
unhealthy food has come from adopting Western practices. So we're trying to embrace our indigenous knowledge, teach the world how Africans cook, and change our narrative globally from a hungry child being the face of Africa to a successful female entrepreneur being the face of Africa. And we want to get our products on global shelves, and we're starting to help our entrepreneurs get on these global shelves so that every diaspora abroad is so proud to say, oh, I went to a mainstream store and I saw my food and it was well packaged and the world loves it. We want jollof rice to be as popular as sushi. We want teff to displace white flour. We want fonio to displace quinoa. And obviously, we want the world to recognize that we are phenomenal contributor and our food is phenomenal. So that's kind of what we're working on with African Food Change Makers.
Okay. Wow. No, it's so amazing. And to your point, I guess there are 2 things, I'll add to that. To your point, right now we walk into like your Walmart or your Whole Foods or whatever it is, right? And you actually see, you can buy, fufu, the fufu flour, you can buy gari, so it is happening. It is happening, thanks to initiatives like you're putting there, like you just discussed, it is happening. And then for food to the world, right? I mean, we're seeing so many, thankful for social media. We're seeing so many people from various nationalities, Australia, European, Asian, doing that fufu challenge. I mean, that just warms my heart, so it is changing. We are really becoming a force to reckon with when it comes to agriculture. And to your point, it's an abundance in Africa, organic, healthy, eating or healthy food. So why not? Why not? Yes. And really that whole thing about the narrative being the malnourished, nutrition, that just needs to just stop. I mean, it's been, for as long as I've been born, that has kind of been the narrative. I'm like, it's about time. In my 40s, I'm like, it's about time the thing just started changing. So, thank you so much. Yes, for all that you do.
And it's the danger of the single story. Chimamanda talks about the single story. There is hunger and
Yes.
poverty on the African continent, but it's a single story. There's hunger and poverty right there in Washington, D.C., and
Everywhere, right?
all over everywhere. So let's tell a more nuanced story about Africa, and let's elevate our food ecosystem because it can create jobs, it can create wealth, and ensure that we actually lift ourselves together
Yeah.
across the board. Yeah.
You're right. Africa does not own the patent for malnutrition and poverty. Like we don't, it's everywhere you go. So why show that narrative and just perpetuate it? We need to change it. Oh no, this is fantastic, and I'm here for it. And I'm happy. Yes, of course. Why not agriculture? Why not focus on agriculture? Because I think in the past we've been a little bit sidetracked, with like what is it like in Nigeria? The oil, the I guess oil, really, right? And then everything just kind of like, no, we need to bring that back, and we need to show that no, we can develop everything together, right? We don't have to like sabotage our agriculture for oil, right? Why can't we develop both industries together, right? Both capabilities together. So this is fantastic. So speaking of nutrition and food, because me, I'm a foodie, I like food. What is the one Nigerian dish or African dish you cannot do without? As in, as soon as you're back from your international travels, it's the one thing you must have. That is, assuming you can get it, when you're out there, like outside of Nigeria.
I love so much of a cuisine, so many dishes. So I would say my three favorite, if you can allow me to have three.
Sure, yes.
I love plantain and egg stew. I love okra soup and gari and fried yam. So those would be my three. And if I could add a fourth, fish pepper soup.
Okay.
Pepper soup in
and what kind of fish? Is it just is it like what kind of fish?
Catfish pepper soup. Yes.
It is so fresh. Oh my god, it's like
exactly.
Haven't said the catfish, right?
Exactly.
It's so
exactly. Nice. Yes. What about you? Iyobosa, what should we make for you when you come home?
Don't get me started. You're gonna go and buy the whole market, because I love dodo, which you call plantain, right? I love dodo and egg, but my dodo has to be a specific. It can be hard. It has to be, but it can't be too soft. There's that in between, right? And then it has to be slanted. Like it can be cubed or it can be square or round. It's got to be slanted, and when it's fried, it has to have the crunch on either side of. My sister is laughing here.
And then a difficult customer to please. You're going to be looking at how it was cut.
And then I love my pounded yam, poundo, and egusi soup. Like,
okay. Awesome.
There you have it. Yes, I'll definitely let you know. At this one, I need to go. When I'm coming to visit, I'll definitely let you know, because I need to.
Awesome. I'll cut the plantain so it's just crisp on both sides. Make sure you achieve that.
That is the best. Oh my goodness. It is an utmost pleasure having you on the show, Ms. Nwuneli. Thank you so much for just highlighting what you do, showcasing what you, not that you needed to come to on my show for me to showcase you. You're already international. You're a fantastic expert. And that's why I call you the Africa aficionado, because there are other Africans who are also doing fantastic in their spaces. And when you speak about, Africa being like Ghana and Ivory Coast, they're the top producers of cocoa. I once interviewed a lady and she said, yeah, I went to Kenya. She travels around Africa quite a bit. And she said, I went to Kenya and I'm a sweet tooth. So I was craving Cadbury chocolate. So I went to this Carrefour, right? One of the supermarkets over there, looking for Cadbury. I found Cadbury, but then right next to it, I found some other chocolates that were nicely packaged. And so she asked around, like, what is this? Who makes this? And they said, oh, these are Kenyan chocolates. She was like, why is this not in Nigeria? That was literally the question. It's like, why is this not in Nigeria? So I guess maybe a question for you is, at what point would we have, because we know the infrastructure within Africa, it's easier to travel to Europe or to move things to Europe than it is from Nigeria to Angola. Right? I'm just throwing out things. So what can, in the near future, and I'm hoping this will happen, how can we start to change that to where more African countries start to trade, right, with one another? Like she said, why are these Kenyan chocolates? And she said they were fantastic, by the way. Why are these not in Nigeria, in the Nigerian shelves, supermarket shelves?
So we're starting to see some improvements with the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement finally being signed, where we're trying to create an African economic union when it comes to trade.
Okay.
And so it's not easy because obviously the infrastructure gaps the policy gaps exist, but we're working collaboratively to see what we can do about that. With the support of AfriExim, which is an Africa-wide trading bank, we're starting to connect our entrepreneurs.
Okay.
We've created a marketplace on Africa Food Changemakers so they get to know each other and they can start trading. And then we're working with policymakers to remove many of the obstacles around currency. You know, currency is a big obstacle. You have Benin Republic next door. They're CFA, we're Naira. They're pegged to the euro. Yes. We're more pegged to the dollar. So you have that currency challenge. And when you're transferring to them, oftentimes it has to go to Europe before it comes back to our countries. This is money moving, not even products that can go across the road. The same with the equivalent of the FDA approval. If a product is approved in Nigeria, it should be approved across West Africa, right? You shouldn't go to each country and have to get a trademark, have to get an approval from the regulatory authorities that your food is safe. So we have to create consistent policies and blanket solutions. And then clearly the road transports, the use of rail, the blockages with checkpoints, which make it quite expensive. Our ports have to become more efficient. And all of that is going to take time, but we're starting to see movement and a lot more political will.
Okay, good. That's fantastic. That's all I needed to hear. Yeah, no, we'll get there. Thank you so much. So what's the one, in 2 minutes or less, what is the one piece of advice you have for anyone who's sitting there, who's watching this, and just saying, hey, you know what, you really inspire, you're very inspiring, they love what you do, and they would like to contribute their own little bit, maybe engage in advocacy or philanthropy on the continent. What words of advice would you have us on contemplating such?
There's so much work to do, and we need all hands on deck. I really believe the Africans and their diaspora are a force to be reckoned with, and we haven't really woken up to our responsibilities. So wherever you sit, you can actually advocate for change on the continent. Number one, think about writing. If you have an opinion, write about it. I'm not talking about blog or Twitter. I'm saying write an op-ed. I believe mastery and exemplifying your mastery and getting it out in the public domain is really important. Number two, get involved in local governance or policy where you can shape what is happening with US or UK Africa relations. We see so much. We see the lobby of Israel, how strong the Israeli lobby is in the US or the Indian lobby is in the US. And we see so many of our people just saying, well, I'm just happy to be here. I'm going to keep quiet, make my money and take care of my family. But that's a very insular approach. If you can actually shape policy, by getting yourself involved in championing efforts where you are, there are great ways to make a difference. You can volunteer, even from wherever you sit. Now, you don't have to physically come, but you can serve on a board. You can serve on a nonprofit board or for-profit board, so you can share your ideas and your best practices and your connections. And for those who are really committed to philanthropy, I helped start the Africa Philanthropy Forum. I served on the board until recently. Please check out our website. Africa Philanthropy Forum will connect you with nonprofits in your country that are doing really good work. And you can serve on their board, you can volunteer, you can give resources, and we vet those organizations so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel and act alone. Yeah, so lots of opportunities to help and lots of ways to engage. And I feel like all of us are gifted. And all of us have been called by God to tackle something to improve the lives of others. And we need you in the diaspora more than ever before. We need each other to collaborate, to leave our egos and logos at the door and work collaboratively to lift all of us up. I really believe if we can lift our people up, one person at a time, we can start changing the way people live, the way they think. And, there's a proverb that we talk about on the continent that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. And I really believe we must go fast and far together. We don't have the luxury of either or. And if we must go fast and far together, we must work with integrity, humility, and excellence. And we must pull each other up and rise together.
Wow. Nicely said. Thank you so much. Thank you for
so
your time. This has been fantastic. Viewers, a key takeaway for me from just having the delightful Ms. Nwuneli here is that to whom much is given, much is expected. And as much as maybe we may not think about it, there is much given to all of us. right? The fact that we're from the continent, the fact that, you know, from Africa, I'm Nigerian, you know, I have to live up to being Nigerian and do everything possible to start to change the narrative, right? Start to change the narrative. And like she said, no matter where you are, because I know there's some people who say, well, it's easy for you guys in the diaspora to just sit here and, you know, you're not there on the continent. Like, no, but we here, just like Ms. Nwuneli has said, we can also start to do our own little bit to start to impact, you know, change or effect change on the continent. You know, so it is doable wherever you are. To whom much is given, much is expected. We should utilize it and put that energy, you know, into this, and we'll start to see it come to fruition all together for the collective good of the community. Right, Ms. Nwuneli?
Definitely, definitely. Well said. My pleasure engaging with you, and I look forward to collaborating with all of you to really make a difference on the continent.
Yes. I would definitely love to have you back, either for another episode or in the future, maybe in another setting, another forum. I'm sure it is bound to happen. Thank you so much for obliging me.
Thank you so much. All right. Take good care.
Okay, viewers, there you have it. So on to the next episode. I say you stay safe. If you've not subscribed, go and subscribe to my channel. Share and like this link. You stay safe and have a super sparkly one. Bye now.